We're going to start with a Mangalacharan today. So just join your hands, take a deep breath. Moksha margasya netaram bhetaram karma bhubratam gyataram vishwatattvanam vande tadgunalaptaye. We are doing Swadhyaya of Tattvartha Sutra, 5th chapter, which is about matter and conscience. And in the 5th chapter, we are learning about the non-physical entities, and matter is one of those non-physical entities. So I would like to take a small revision from yesterday's class, and that is understanding the space points or the space units and what are these. So before I start my PowerPoint presentation, here, I'm going to take you on my whiteboard. You can see that. Okay, one more time, we start with what are the space points? So imagine this is the universe right here. Okay, if this is the universe, then there are the 6 essentials which are inside this universe, right? We know the names of the 6 essentials. One is the living essential. Another is the matter essential. Another is motion, halt, I think it's going to show a mirror image. I can't write here, right? Okay, so we all know the names, right? Halt essential, and then there is space essential, and then there is time essential. So we know these names for sure. Look at this universe, okay? One point I make here, okay? Yesterday I told you this one point is the space occupied by one atom. So when it is atom, like the structure that you see from the science, that's how they make an atom. When it's an atom structure, it is actually the Jane atom, which is the smallest unit, which cannot be further divided into any more parts or units, is actually occupying just one point in the space. When it is a matter, which means it is made out of combinations of a number of atoms together, or it is made out of combinations from huge number of atoms together. So for example, a chair is made out of, even if you put a microscope or itty mini electroscopes to check out how many atoms are inside these in one chair, you would find out that you cannot count them on your fingers or even by your memory. And this is known as uncountable number. So that's why we say that the matter essential, if it is in the form of atom, it just occupies one space point. If it is in the form of a pencil, a chair, anything which is visible to our physical eyes, then it is actually occupying about uncountable number of space points. All this is occupied by this matter, and these space points we cannot count. Okay, this matter can also be occupying some countable number of space points. What are the countable number of space points? The count is like 2 space points, 3 space points, 4 space points or space units. We can speak about any such thing, right? So just imagine an atom of water, right? A molecule of water. So it is made from a hydrogen atom. So hydrogen atom has got like H, and it's to the power 2. Okay, you can see that too. I wrote it in a reverse order. So this is an H2. Okay, that's a hydrogen molecule atom. So hydrogen atom has got 2 points. It occupies 2 points in the space. So that's why we say that matter can occupy a single space point. Matters can occupy countable, that you can count on your fingers, space points. And a matter, if it is in a larger, bigger format, it can occupy uncountable number of space points. That was about the matter occupying the space. Okay, let's talk about the living essential, right? So the living essential, since it is in a body right now, like I have a body and my living or the soul is inside this body. In that case, if I'm standing here, then how many space points am I occupying? I am using actually about uncountable number of space units. You cannot count the number. It's so many space units in this universal space that I'm occupying right here from toe to the head. So many space points. This is known as uncountable number of space points. So the living beings occupy that. Okay. And then the living beings can also occupy as huge of space points as the entire universal space. So a living being can actually be as big from this point to this point, this point to this point, but I'm going to tell you exactly how and when that happens. Let's talk about another essential, which is motion essential. So I told you the motion essential is just one of a kind. It's just one piece, right? If it is one piece, it's occupying the entirety of the universe. So it is occupying the whole universal space, and it is from this point to this point, this point to this point. So every single point inside this is being occupied by the space essential, by the motion essential. There's not even a single point in the space which is not occupied by the space, by the motion essential. Same thing is with the what you say. Same thing is with the halt essential. Halt essential also occupies the complete expanse of the whole universe. From there's not even a small point in space where there is no halt essential or where there is no space, no motion essential. It's there every single place. What about the space essential itself? So if this is the universe, right? So this universe is taking up all the space, right? So the space essential is also one of a kind, just one piece, and it's occupying a complete, the whole body of the space is right this one. This is the whole body, and this whole big body is occupying so many space units inside the universe. Same motion, it's a complete one body occupying so many space points. Halt, one body occupying complete space, but so many space points inside the body, depending upon how much space you occupy. Correct? And now the most important aspect that we learned yesterday was about the time essential, right? So what is it about the time essential? I told you the time essential is not one of a kind, right? There are many number of time essentials. Okay, so how many number of time essentials? You see this universal space, right? So in this universal space, how many space units are there? Can you count them? No, you cannot count the number of space units in this universal space, right? So if you cannot count it, that means that there are uncountable number of space points, right? Space units. So I told you yesterday, 1 unit of time essential occupies 1 point, just like the atom. 1 point, space point, is occupied by 1 unit of time. Okay, how do we understand this? With the help of an example. The example is treasure chest. Remember, yesterday I made a treasure chest for you right here. And in this treasure chest, there are a lot of jewels or crystals inside this treasure chest, right? It can be filled up with all these crystals right here, right? So every single crystal is occupying its own space. The crystal does not overlap the space of a next crystal, right? For example, these 3 pens here, right? They're occupying their own spaces. They cannot take the space. You can't put them inside and take the space of that one. Yes, of course, with the matter you can, if you melt them, right? But with the time, you cannot melt it. It will stay just the way it is. So every single unit, just like these crystals occupying inside the treasure chest, so there are so many uncountable number of units of the time essentials occupying this complete huge universal space. Okay, so now I hope it is pretty clear with what we took yesterday. And let's put on our slide. Give me a thumbs up if you understand, and if not, just send me a in the chat message so I can listen and I can reply you back right away. Okay, so we were learning essentials, and this is the thing that we just covered right now, which is, repeating again, the space which is occupied by one single atom is using one space point. The motion halt and a single living being has uncountable space units. Uncountable. You can't count them in your fingers. Matter occupies countable, which is you can count. Uncountable, that you cannot count. And if it is an atom, then just one space point. The space unit, which is occupied by the space itself, is like infinite. Why is it infinite? I'm going to tell you soon. A single time unit occupies only one space point, just like the individual gems that occupy the entire treasure chest. Let's go to the next slide. Give me a thumbs up if this is easy and now better for you to understand today. Okay, and a lot of thumbs up. Let's move forward. Next, we learned that the biggest entity in the world is the space, and the smallest entity in the world is an atom. What is space? We are learning about all these essentials, and we are learning the properties of these essentials, because we learned that an essential cannot exist without its properties. It will always have its properties, and that's why we say it will never leave its nature. Why? Because it will never leave its properties. So it will never leave its nature. It will always continue to exist. That's why it's an essential. So space is an essential. What does space do? What is its property? What is its quality? So the quality of space essential is that it is accommodating. It gives us space. That's what its function is. We all understand it by now, right? So space provides the place for motion essential, for halt essential, for time essentials, for living essentials, and for matter essentials. It gives space to everyone. How much are we full of gratitude to this space? Have you ever thought about, if there was no space essential, trust me, we wouldn't even have place anywhere, not even inside our homes, because there wouldn't be any space that can be occupied by anyone, and we will not exist then. So it's very important that we have gratitude towards the space essential, because it gives us so much space to be, to exist, to function, to do so many things, to learn so many things. And the existence of the whole universe, it's in its entirety, is dependent on the space essential, right? Space essential we have to be very, very grateful towards. Space itself is self-accommodating. So if every other essential is getting its base as a space essential, that they are inside the space, where is the space? So the answer by the acharyas is that the space is supported by the space itself. Pretty clear? Let me repeat it. The space is supported by the space itself. So it does not need any support. It is self-supportive. It is self-accommodating. It gives space to everyone. It gives space for itself also to exist. That's the biggest quality of the space essential. Okay? Does that make sense? Perfect. Let's move forward to the next one. Is there a space anywhere out in the universe where we are forbidden to go? We cannot go. Is it possible that there are places in the space that we cannot go? Question mark. Think about it. Think twice. Can there be some place in the whole of universe where a human being can't reach? Human beings are trying every single moment to reach to the extremities of the universe, to find out what's beyond it, what's inside it. Every place they're sending satellites, they're sending objects out in the space to read and this and that. But is it really possible that they have limited space of entry, and there is a place where they cannot even project any object and where they cannot even themselves go to? Well, yes, this is a very, very interesting concept by Gen scientists. Look at this. So is there a space where we are forbidden to go? Number 1 point, space exists in the universe, and the space outside the universe, space is self-established. What does this mean? Look at this. So when you're looking at the board here, I told you that this is the universe, right? Imagine that this is the universe, right? Wouldn't a question come to your mind, what is outside this universe? Correct? What could be outside this universe? Right? There could be many terms designed by scientists or modern thinkers, something like anti-universe, anti-cosmos, anti-time zone, anti-place zone, anything like that. Have you heard of those terms? Right? Actually, there is something which is beyond the universe, and this is universal space outside the universe. And this space is never ending. It doesn't have an end. It doesn't have boundaries. So what am I saying? That if this is the universe, then the space inside the universe is occupied completely by the space ascension, but the space outside the universe is also occupied by the space ascension. So that means that there are space points every single place. Imagine out there, in here, everywhere your imagination, and even where your imagination cannot run, it's still there. It still exists out there, everywhere. It will cover up every single, and that's the reason. Remember, I told you what is the biggest entity, largest entity in the whole wide world, right? Even beyond the world that exists. So the answer was space essential, because it is not just occupying the universal space, it's also occupying every single space point outside the universe. It's huge, it's never ending, it's infinite. And that's the reason it is called as the largest space unit. And now let's go back to our second point, which is space exists in the universe and the space outside the universe. And space is self-established. I already explained that to you. It is completely self-established, right? And now let's go to motion and halt. They occupy the entire universal space. We learned it. They do not exist in the space outside of the universe. So in this space outside, no, there is no existence of motion, or halt. There is no existence of any such things outside. All of the other essentials just exist only inside the universal space. So the motion is here. Let's imagine this is the motion. This is the halt essential. Let's imagine time essential. Let me make a clock for time. It's also inside this space. Let me mention living essential is also inside the universal space. Who else is left out? Matter essential, like an object, a pencil, or earth, whatever matter objects that you see around, all these are inside the universal space. None of these can exist outside the universal space. Why? Can anyone think of an answer why it can't exist? It's very simple. Think about it. It's all scientific. Look, didn't I tell you that the motion essential was occupying the extremity of the universe? So if there is no motion, how will living beings move around in that outside space? So they can't go beyond this border. They can stay just within the universal space, because there's no motion essential that can take them around to places. And there's no halt essential. Suppose there was motion essential, but no halt essential. Then they would be moving around everywhere and no one can stop them, right? So there is no halt essential also. And what if the time essential? If you go there, the space, the anti-space or the space beyond the universal space is timeless. There is no time factor in it. What does that mean? We are constantly moving with time. What does that mean? We are aging, right? That is time factor. We have days and nights. That is time factor. There is no such time factor on the outside of this universal space, because there is no time unit that exists on any of these space points. So there is no existence of time out there. And that very much clearly relates with the Einstein's theory of time and relativity, which we need to understand with deeper details as you grow up. Okay, so what about the matter essential? Since the soul essential cannot move around, not go exit this particular universal space, same thing as with the matter essential. It can't go, it can't exit this space. So it's very clear that all these 6 essentials remain inside the universal space. It is only one essential, which is the space essential, which is present beyond, and it's covering up all complete space, which is not even universe, which is beyond universe. Okay, so yes, there is a place which is forbidden for us to go. What is that place? This is anti-universe, anti-cosmos, or a place beyond the universal space. That's the place where we cannot go. Okay, living beings and matter can only move in the space where there is existence of force and motion essential, as I explained to you, and therefore they will always remain inside the universal space. Thus, the universe consists of all the six essentials, whereas the space outside the universe only consists of the vast, never-ending, infinite space. The space outside the universe is not a void or a vacuum. Very important point. You know what scientists say? That they have a hypothesis that every single thing which is outside the universal space, they imagine that there is something like void or black hole, or there is something like vacuum, and things like that. And they're just imagining, they're just hypothesizing, because they haven't gone to that places to really see, to be able to see. They don't have instruments to find it out. So they have made a mental theory that maybe there is something known as void, which is like nothing out there. But Jain Acharyas completely negate that point. They say that no, that is true, that it is void from the aspect of the other essentials, that no living can go there, no matter can go there, no motion or halt can go there, no time can go there. But it still has space essential. This one essential still existing. So can we really say it is void? No, we cannot say it is void. We have to say the space beyond the universal space is not void. It has one essential, which is the space essential in it. Okay, that is clear now. Let's move forward with the next slide. The soul can contract and expand. We are going to talk something about the soul, and why we are talking about it here, because it's important for you to understand where is it contracting and where is it expanding. It's all happening inside this universal space, because soul cannot go beyond this universal space, right? So it's all happening inside this universal space. So imagine a lamp. The light from the lamp, would it cover just the area? Would it, imagine if you enter into a dark room, what happens? You turn on the lights. You turn on the lights, you think that the light will shine only on one chair and it will not light up the whole room? Is it possible? Even if it is a focus light, it would still have more light maybe just on the chair, but it will still, the light will expand into the whole entirety of the room, right? So that's what exactly is the property of the soul. A soul has the ability to expand to the extremities of the body it gets. If it gets the body of an ant, it will contract and make itself smaller to fit inside the body of the ant. If the soul is inside, traveling into the body of an elephant, it would expand itself and completely expand itself to the extremities of the complete elephant. There wouldn't be a single space point inside the elephant which will not be occupied by the soul. It will occupy the entirety of the space. You know what? If someone asks you, some people say, if I have asked this question many times before, I ask them, where is the soul? If I ask you, where is the soul, right? There are some people who give answers like, hey, soul is here in my heart, and soul is in my head, or soul is in my eyes. When I see, the soul reflects through my eyes. You know, that's what people say, that soul is being in just certain portions of the body. That's not correct. The soul has a natural tendency of expanding. It will expand to the entirety of the body it gets when it moves from one body to another body. So it would always expand. So we can never say that that. And how do acharyas prove this point, that it is just it is expanded in the whole body? So suppose if I pinch you on your hand, wouldn't you feel the pain, right? And if I pinch you on your cheeks, wouldn't you feel the pain, right? So you feel the pain in any part of the body you pinch yourself, right? Except for nails. So yes, the soul doesn't extend into the nails. That's true. Or you will not feel pain when you pinch this hair. You won't feel anything. Why? Because the soul is not in this hair. So it's only two things where the soul doesn't exist, which is the hair and the nails. Rest whole of the body, the soul expands to its extremities and fill up the whole body. It's not just lying in the heart, it's everywhere. Okay, so that's one concept extremely clear for you, that soul can expand and contract into the space which is provided to it. Okay, so second point, the soul can even expand to the extent of the entire universe. Remember, I told you just one slide before this that the space which is covered by the entire universe, the whole space here, if you can see me, the whole universal space inside this, and a soul can actually occupy a complete universal space. Can you believe that? And you know what? All soul have the same capacities. That means even our soul can occupy the space of the whole entire universe. It can become so huge, cover up the entire with with our when our soul expands. When does this happen? Okay, so suppose there is a Muni Maharaji here sitting in some place in the universe meditating. Okay, and when he's meditating, and this is the time that in just a moment he is about to turn into a siddha. So he's in an arihant state right now, and in this arihant state he has disintegrated his four karmas, four types of karmas. Okay, there are total 8 types of karmas in the body. So when he has disintegrated 4 types of karmas, he becomes an arihant. Now when he becomes an arihant, the next stage for him to go is siddha, to become siddha. So when he's turning into a siddha, okay, what happens is his 4 karma particles is still remaining in him, inside his body, right? So to make the time frame of those karma particles shorter, this Arihanta's soul expands out of his body. Imagine that. It is beautiful process. So this Arihanta is sitting under a tree and meditating, and suddenly there's a blast, and his whole soul expands out to the complete entirety of the universe. And only 8 points are stationary. Okay, that's a little bit more advanced science, and we will learn about it later. So only 8 points become stationary, but remaining every single space point inside the Arihant moves out and expands itself into the complete entire space. And that's the reason why we say that a soul can also occupy uncountable space points, which is equivalent to the size of a complete universe. Okay, please, if you have any questions, I will really appreciate either asking me after this class. I think we will be done in about like 10 minutes. So please ask me. This is all science. There can be zillion number questions coming in, rolling in your mind. What about this? What about that? How is this possible? How is that happening? Please ask me. I'm ready to answer you. Not just right now in front of everyone. If you want to even talk to me later, I can explain you in entirety the whole concept. Okay, so stay in touch with me. Let's move on to the next slide. The motion and the halt essential, right? So we were actually discussing about the different essentials. We learned that the space essential is accommodating. It provides a space to be there. So we are thankful to the space essential because it's given us space, right? What about the motion and the halt essentials? So how do you explain the motion and the halt essentials? So look at this diagram here. You see the fishes, and they're inside the water, and these fishes are moving randomly in all the different directions right here, right? Tell me one thing. Is it the water which is telling the fish to move, or is it the fish which wants to move because it wants to move? Correct. It's only the fish who is thinking that it wants to move, and that's why it's moving. Okay, so that's exactly how we replicate or we understand as an example for the motion essential. How do you move? Either you move with will or you move with force, right? Either it is the force of someone else pushing you, that's when you will move, or you would move when you want to move. Hey, I want to go from this place to that place. Hey, I want to move my fingers like this. Hello, hi there. I'm moving my fingers, right? I'm moving my eyelids. Look, right? My everything around us is moving. When we are moving from one place to another, when there are different parts in our body which are moving in different ways, when the fish is moving in water, when the clouds are moving in the sky, when the water is moving in the lakes and the oceans, so what is happening? All this is happening because of the motion essential. And motion essential does not, has no power at all to force us to move into any direction. No way. It cannot do that. It is passive. What does that mean? It will just stay there. And if you want to move, it will support in your movement. Clear? That's the point. What about the halt essential? Let me explain you with the help of an example what acharyas gave us. Look at this boy. He's resting under the shade of a tree, right? Now this boy or any traveler is really very tired and has walked miles and miles and miles and miles. And now he wants to rest. Remember the story of the hare and the tortoise? The hare, he was so tired and he was so intellectual that he said that even if I rest, nothing's gonna happen. I will still win the race, right? So what does it do? It rests and takes a nice nap under the tree. So who told you to take the nap? You yourself took a decision to stay in one place, right? So the halt essential is just a support. If you want to stop someplace, it will help you stop. Okay, and if the force applied to you, for example, if I'm if something some force forces me to stop in one place and I can't move around, then in that case, that's also the possibility because of halt essential. If halt essential was not there, no matter what, no one could stop us from anything or anywhere. Similarly, the example can go on to a ball. When we throw a ball, right, the ball is moving, right? And then that's the because of the support from motion essential, but the ball is moving with because of the force applied to it. And now there's a ball right in front of it, and that ball suddenly makes the ball stop, right? But that's the force that was applied to make the ball stop. But who actually supported the halt motion or the stopping motion? It was because of the presence of halt essential in this entire universe, universal space. And that's the reason that this was stopping us. So let's check what time is it. It's 4:08 and I probably started at 3:30, right? So I would take just slides up to this point, and I will ask you if you have any questions, tell me, talk to me, so we can discuss. And I have a special session for you today. I had requested my daughter to make notes on any question that might arise while I'm taking this presentation. So let me see what are your questions. Okay, so I have so many questions here. So let me take up the questions which is coming from Anusha, and then I'm going to take up all these questions which are here. And while we are discussing, if you have anything in your mind that can come as a question, I'm going to give you answers for that also. Clear? So here is Anusha, and she has her questions right in front of us. Yes. Yes, what's your question? Ask. And yes. No, I haven't. Okay. What does entity mean? Entity, I told you, is an essential, right? It's a substance that just exists. That's what the definition of entity is. Entity is this pencil is an entity. You are an entity. Okay? The space around you is an entity. So by entity, I literally meant something which is of substance, right? Something which is of essence, which has its own nature and it exists inside this universal space, retaining its own nature. That's exactly what entity means. Yes. What's your next question? Does that satisfy you?
Yeah. How is time in the universal space?
How is time in the universal space? Very nice question. Actually, as we are going to move forward into deeper aspects of this presentation, we are actually going to learn exactly how and what is the behavior of the time. We're going to talk about, like I told you, that the universal space has got many uncountable number of space points, right? And on each space point, there is one
No.
time unit resting on it.
Yes.
Do you remember that I told you that?
Yeah.
Right? There's one space point occupying one time unit on it, right? So there are like uncountable number of time units. And why is it so? Because time has different functions in different areas. Look, for example, here we are in New York, right? We are in the time when it is like late afternoon, correct? And then maybe in California, the time is 3 hours behind, right? So the time is actually not later afternoon, it is actually early afternoon because you can see from the sun, it's 3 hours earlier than, later than us. Sorry, later, right? So it's 3 hours later than us. Okay, that's why it is early afternoon. So that's how we understand these different places having different times. Also, that's one of the examples to help you understand that because the time unit is not one of a kind, not one large unit covering up the entire space, the time unit is only a small unit every place it's lying there, right? And that's why in different spaces you will find time which are different.
Okay. Is the Milky Way in the universal space?
Okay, is the Milky Way in the inside the universal space? That's what Anusha is asking. Well, does everyone know about Milky Space? Okay, so what is Milky Space? Do you want to tell them?
It's like the galaxy.
What is a galaxy? How would you explain a galaxy?
It's like outside of the Earth. Like, so there's like planets, and the planets are in space.
Yes.
Which is the Milky Way, and it's called the Milky Way.
It includes the Milky Way,
outside,
right? Outside of the Earth. Very interesting. But do you know that, okay, what Anusha said, let me repeat. So Milky Way galaxy, we are a part of it. And our galaxy's name is Milky Way. Okay, what does that mean? Our planets, our sun, our moon, as what modern science talks about today, right? It is all a part of the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, and the zillion billion stars that we see, it's our stars. So there are, as per science, it's a hypothesis. Again, it's not really proven. Okay, it's total hypothesis that there are several and multi-million out there galaxies out there. Okay, but according to Jain Acharyas, if you want an answer, then the answer is that all the places where there is matter particles. Aren't the planets made out of matter?
Yeah.
Yes, it is made out of matter. Isn't there motion in the planets? Aren't planets moving around?
Yes.
Right? Even though they are rotating or revolving, whatever they are doing, there's still, so that means there is motion essential. That means that the whole entire galaxies are still inside the universal space. You can put your logic now by yourself. You can think, because I have given you facts. Acharyas are giving us like very basic facts, and now we can think and really understand from the perspective of a broader vision exactly where we are and what's this whole universal space comprised of. Okay, you have another question?
Yeah. So, since there isn't any gravity in space, like in the space like outside of the Earth, how does the Hall essential activate?
Okay, so halt essential is, I would say, I would relate like gravity to more of a motion essential, right? Because like if you are up on the stairs, because of gravity, you will fall down, right? If you're hanging up in the air, you would actually fall down towards the earth because the gravity is the center core of the earth, correct?
But like
that's
you
where
said,
it is.
That the Milky Way is in the universal space.
Yes.
So in the Milky Way, in space outside of the Earth,
There is no
no
gravity. That's
So you will
correct.
keep on moving no matter what. So that
Right.
essential doesn't activate.
Right. Okay. So there is halt essential in the entire universal space. Okay. So there is a way to stop those floating objects out there. Okay. Either by force or by will. It is absolutely possible to do. We may need to learn those things, how to do that. That's the only difference. Clear? But about the gravitational, I would say gravity is just a teeny mini force which is present on the earth, right? On the inside the universal space, wherever the gravity is functional. So it is just some kind of force that keeps things active, but it is not at all related with the motion or the halt. The motion and the halt essentials are occupying vast space. You know, there are places where gravity is not functional.
Yeah.
Haven't you been to mystery spots? There are so many mystery spots in the United States. Everyone must have gone there one time. You will see that gravity is tilted someplace. It is happening this and that with the gravity. So that means it's just a force, which is like magnetic, electromagnetic forces that we have around. Similarly, gravity is one of the forces that contribute towards the functioning of these, how the matter particles inside the universe function. And gravity and all these things apply only to the matter particles. Trust me, it does not apply to the soul. What does that mean? Since I have a body, that's the reason I am pulled or stopped around by these forces, gravitational forces. If I didn't have a body, I would have a pretty much a motion which is going in the upward direction or some other direction because of my karmic particles. It will not make me stick to the earth or to the world I'm living right now at. Do you get that? So all these are teeny mini forces which are active, and they are actually applied or can be applied only to the matter particles. None of the other essentials are is applicable or is being can be affected by these kind of forces.
Okay. We can
Is that
answer
done?
with some of the other people.
Okay, so let's check what are other questions here.
So the first question.
Okay. And who has asked? Can you please name them?
Arihant Jain. Aren't electrons the smallest?
Okay, Arihant. So your question is if the electrons are the smallest. My answer would be, what if today's science tells that electron is the smallest because the instrument, probably electrograph or electroscope, which is used to identify what is inside the electron, and that they see that there is nothing that they can find in the electron that can be divided into particles. But what if tomorrow science finds another instrument? Do you remember that when science did not have an electroscope, they found out through different instruments that atom was the smallest particle, and then the science changed. When I was studying science, like years back, at that time I thought I knew that only atom is the smallest particle. But now, after so many years, science discovered through new instruments that, hey, this atom can be split and there are more particles inside it, and there are electrons and there are protons and there are so many things inside it, right? And they have given those names as the teeny mini particles. But actually, if tomorrow again science finds out another instrument to actually zoom in and find out more things inside the electrons, probably it will come with the answer that, hey, we were wrong. Electron is not the smallest. There's something more inside it. So we cannot answer from that aspect. We just need to understand from the fact that according to Jain science, the atom, and this atom is known as param anu. Param means ultimate smallest particle, ultimate particle of the universe. Okay, it's ultimate, the smallest, the minutest unit, which cannot be further divided. And that's what the name anu was given to. Scientists stole away our name of anu and gave it to the atom. And now, since they already call the atom an anu, they cannot call electron an anu. So they had to come with their own terms and names for it now. And that's why it keeps on splitting and finding out more and more answers for us. But who can know about the atom? There's only one kind of knowledge that can know and understand about the atoms. And that knowledge is the omniscient knowledge. Without ourselves gaining the omniscient knowledge, we cannot see the atom. Only an omniscient can actually see the atom from his physical eyes. Can you believe that? He can see it. He can randomly see, oh my God, that's whole atomic structures around me. He can see with his naked eyes. We cannot, because our knowledge is limited to very, very small format. Omniscient is a big, huge knowledge, and it's only through that knowledge that you can really understand the atom and see it.
Okay.
Yes.
So the next question is from Mahavir's iPad. In the areas where Jainism or science conflict, do you think science is right or Jainism?
Okay, I just answered to you, Mahavir, right now, which is, I don't know if your name is Mahavir or not, but whoever asked me this question. Um, so there is no conflict between Jainism and science, number one. Why would I say that? Because science is still discovering itself. It is still researching. It never says that I have come to the end point. It keeps on researching. The same example that I just gave for the atom, right? One day it said that this is an atom, and now it said that no, the thing that we found out was atom was not really an atom. The electron is a new atom right now, or a quantum atom is a new atom right now. There's so many new atoms now discovered by the science, right? But they keep on giving some different names to it. So depending upon how advanced the science can go and how much it is limited because of its physical instruments, how much can it really go into the depth is question mark. There is no conflict. You can get all the answers of the scientific discoveries from the Jain science. And guess what? Not just that, you can go beyond it. You can understand even beyond what scientists don't know yet. That's the most powerful point of the journal. You know, I'm myself a science student, and I used to believe the same thing. I used to believe either science is correct or religion or the Jainism is correct. And then one day I got a guru, and who introduced to me these fabulous concepts, which I'm sharing with you right now from the Tattvartha Sutra Fifth Adhyay. Then I understood, oh my God, our science is so deep and vast. And that's so true, right? So that's your answer. Do we have any other question to
Yeah,
go?
we have more questions.
Okay.
So Mahavir iPad also asked, but isn't that just the time zones that were created to be relative to the sun? They weren't created by time particles.
Can you go a little slow? I didn't get
But
you.
isn't that just time zones that were created to be relative to the sun? They weren't created by time particles.
They, since didn't I tell you that it's the time? Maybe I didn't get your question pretty well. Isn't it just time zones that were created to be relative? Yes, the time zones is created to be relative to the sun, and that's what I told you, that the time is relative. Didn't I tell you that right now? How do you relate time to? You relate time to past, present, and future, right? That's also relative. How do you relate time as I was 10 years back, I was 10 years old. 10 years from now, I will be 30 years old, right? So it is all relative. That's how the time is identified. Okay. But actually, what is really the time essential in its minutest forms? We are going to discover that more in further presentations as we go forward. So this is like a practical viewpoint to understand time, which is through relativity. So thank you so much for putting that question out there. Yes, time is relative from the perspective of practical viewpoint.
I don't know if this is a question, but Mahavir's iPad also said, is when you said that you feel pain in certain places because of one's soul, but science says that it's because of the nervous system and the pain system. There are also things like quarks and other subatomic particles that are smaller than electrons.
Yes, absolutely. I told you that there were more. And if science finds out new instruments, they might even go beyond the quarks and the smaller subatomic particles that it's looking for. Maybe wait and watch for next 10 years. There will be something new in the discovery, and then they will announce that there's another small particle, which is more sub than the subatomic particle. Okay, so that question is answered there. Your second question is that it's the nerves inside us which give us the sensation of pain and pleasure, right? That's true. Okay, and basically the nerves are an instrument. Okay, the nerves are an instrument for us to experience the pain and the pleasure, which is actually because of the soul itself. If there was no soul, would this body ever feel the pain and the pleasure? It will never, right? If the soul leaves this body, your whole nervous system will die out. It will stop to function. No one can bring it to start, right? But does that mean that if the nervous system dies, then the soul will die? No. So there is an answer to this. When people go into coma or into near death experiences, right, their body doesn't respond because there is no nervous activity inside their body. No one can catch any kind of nerve functioning inside the body. They can't feel the pain, do whatever to their body, they can't feel it, right? But there is still soul. So what I'm trying to tell you, that nervous system is only an instrument that helps us feel it. If the nervous system dies out, then we will not be able to feel the pain and the pleasure, but it still exists. Another example for this is, for example, our eyes. This is very interesting. Listen to this. We see through our eyes, right? So uh, when our instrument, which is the eyes, right, they get injured or they get hurt or they get damaged, right? So we cannot see anymore. Would you say at that time that you are no longer a five-sensed being? Now you have only four senses left in you? No, right? You would still remain to be a five-sensed being because your soul has entered into its state of the five senses. So your five senses are intact. That's your internal state. And the external instruments that help you express those five senses is this external instrument. Even these external instruments begin to die off, that doesn't mean that your ability to see would die off. For example, if you have seen, people have those hearing aids which can help them to hear, right? Those people who cannot hear, that means that their instrument is damaged a little bit, but then they can hear it with the help, with the aid of that instrument. How? Because it's the instrument which is damaged, but you still have the hearing capacity and you can still hear. So you have those abilities inside you, and it is the power that allows you to experience through these is the soul. Without the soul, this whole being is dead. Nothing can be felt. I hope I have justified your answers in as many ways as possible. But if you have any more questions, please absolutely move forward. Yes, are we done? How many more questions do we have?
We don't have that many more. We don't have
Still,
more.
how many
But
number?
like, what if somebody needs to?
What is it? Just to confirm, what is the yes, we will be talking about the soul. So Anusha's next question is, what if someone wants to know what the soul really is? So yes, that's a good question, and I think we will be covering up when we will be talking about the conscience. Okay, so I've covered up most of your questions, and thank you so for being so interactive today and loving your energy here. And I think Sunidhi had a question. Is it so? If yes, Sunidhi, just turn your video on so I can see you. Otherwise, we can end this session.
I didn't ask a question.
Okay, I thought you raised your hand. So, okay,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
by mistake. So, no problem. Join your hands, take a deep breath. We're going to end up this session again with the Manglacharan. Mokshamargasya netaram bhetaram karma bhubhratam gyataram vishwatattvanam vande tadgunalabdhaye. Jai Jind, everyone. See you tomorrow. We will continue our matter and conscience science again back. See you till then.